Hey, welcome to the show. Oh my God, dudes, dudettes. If you are looking to the news of the internet and you're trying to get a read on the economy right now, especially the housing and the mortgage markets, the insanely contradictory information out there, I know it's making first-time homebuyers feel like a fifth grader who got dropped into a college advanced calculus and differential equations class. Gang, the headlines are jacked up, and you are not wrong to feel confused or out of your depth or just plain lost. It's a mess. So I'm going to break down the latest housing market trends and explain what they mean in plain English. No sugarcoating, no sales pitch, just real talk about home prices, home inventory, and mortgage rates, and whether it makes sense to buy in this mess or to keep renting. Let's go.
How to Buy a Home educates, protects, and connects first-time homebuyers to qualified vetted realtors in their area. Whether you're looking for DIY information or step-by-step guidance, How to Buy a Home is the #1 resource for first-time homebuyers.
What is up, my How to Buy a Homies? I am your unapologetic host, David Sidoni, standing up for the most overlooked, disregarded, and disrespected consumers in North America. Yeah, that's you, first-time homebuyers. And hey, if you're new to the podcast, well, this could really blow your brain a little bit. So don't worry about it. Don't stress. After this cluster mess of an explanation of the current market situation, you can go right to the 10 basic steps of how to buy a home. Starts right there, beginning at episode 301. And if you want real-world examples of people who have done this, check out the listener success stories. Those are packed with tactical tips. Just look for the word interview in the episode title. And, you know, if you're looking to just kind of figure out what are the words that dude is saying, well, that's where you hit episode 94. That's the beginning of the A to Z for the real estate glossary. And if you still haven't found what you need in that gigantic library of all the podcasts we've had since 2019, scroll down, look at the titles, and find one that you want more information on. And of course, as always, if you're stuck, go to howtobuyahome.com, ask David. There's a button that says Ask David, and I'll help you find exactly what you need. All right, let's get into it, gang. This podcast is my passion project and my labor of love. My whole goal with this was to get the best information in the entire world to you, the first-time homebuyer, so you could work on your planning and your strategy. So because of that, since 2019, I've been spending my days nerding out, researching all the critical data that's going to be important to you. Big sigh, because dude, broski, hombre, boss lady, amiga, I do this for a living, man. I nerd out and I read everything. And the past couple of weeks, it's seriously messed with my head. I mean, check out these headlines, and all these come from legitimate sources. April 24th. Existing home sales plummet 5.9% in mid-March. Then April 30th, March pending home sales see the biggest jump in over a year. Okay, dude, which is it? And then on April 30th, I saw this one. Mortgage applications dropped for the third consecutive week, down 12.7% due to high interest rates. And then on May 1st, a decrease in mortgage rates for the second consecutive week. So if rates are going down, then wouldn't more people be coming out? I don't understand. What the? Yeah, I had them put in a long beep because, I don't know if you like a G-rated version of this, but if you're someone who is totally down with the R rating or the NC-17, just pretend I cussed for about 5 seconds. Because, man, this is confusing. And if I put all the current housing data into ChatGPT and I asked it, is it a good time to buy? I fear that AI would hallucinate and tell me, yeah, it's an excellent time to buy peaches. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you all of the numbers first. And then I'm going to give you some clear, simple analysis of what all this contradictory data means for you and how that's going to affect your first-time home buying journey. According to the National Association of Realtors, the national median existing home price is about $403,700 as of March 2025. Now, that's roughly 2.7% higher than it was a year ago, and it's an all-time high for the month of March. So in other words, home prices aren't shooting up in the double-digit appreciation like they did post-pandemic. 2021 and 22 were insane. But they're also not falling. They are increasing, but they're increasing slower. Now, this creates confusion all the time. I see this like every time this happens in the market. It's an unclear headline because it says that things are slowing, but it's not slowing. It just means that we're decelerating. And I know decelerating kind of sounds like it's going down if you just skim past that headline, but it means prices are still going up just at a slower pace. And I mean, seriously, they had to. Those 21 and 22 prices, they were running away at a full sprint. But eventually, imagine that prices were running a full sprint, like for a 100-yard dash, and then they got to the 200 and the 300 and 400 yards. Well, eventually, if they started out full speed like they did after the pandemic, they're still moving forward, but they can't continue that sprint pace. All right, that's where we're at with prices. Let's talk about inventory. Yes, gang, inventory. It's the number one stat and indicator that I watch here at How to Buy a Home, which is, mostly just me locked in my office, nerding out, poring over this data 24/7. I wish I had more of a life, but I don't. There's only one thing that affects the housing market in the 2020s, and that is the fact that from 2008 to 2012, in the global financial crisis here in the United States, home builders went bankrupt and they stopped building homes to the tune of a 50 to 70% reduction each year over those 5 years. Now, this reduced the inventory by millions. And now, 17 years later, we are still short 3 to 7 million homes for what we need for the average normal market and the people that are trying to buy homes. So I get it. There's tons of headlines in the news right now. And you can read about the economy and the tariffs and the stock market and inflation and the Fed rate and the mortgage rates until you are straight up blue in the face. None of that has any effect on the one thing that really matters. Say it with me now. Low inventory. Supply and demand trumps all. So where are we at? Currently, we have about 1.33 million homes for sale. And according to IcicleCreekRealEstate.com, that's only about 4 months of housing supply. Now, I looked at other places too, but that was just such a funny source, I had to say it. So 4 months. All right, homies, let me give you a quick little definition. For those of you who, when you're diving into your research, you're perplexed because you see all these real estate nerds discussing months of supply. Here's what's up with that term. The real estate industry is run by dinosaurs who use ridiculous terminology because they're too old and too stupid to use terms that are clear for the consumer. So months of supply is a statistic that all the real estate, yahoos, they use that to define what we call the absorption rate. And this is something that helps us figure out, are we in a buyer's market or a seller's market? So the absorption rate that gives you that months of supply number, that's how many months would it take if all of the homes for sale right now got purchased and no new homes went up for sale. So if the month supply for that to happen is 0 to 4 months, that's a seller's market. Low supply, high demand. 5 to 6 months, that's the balanced market. That's the sweet spot. That's what we're looking for. And 7+ months, that's a buyer's market, high supply and lower demand. So using this stupid real estate terminology, my friends over at Icicle and a whole bunch of other different resources that I looked at, most places are showing about 4 months supply. So we're still in a tight market that favors sellers. And there aren't a ton of options out there for buyers. But the good news is 4 months supply, while still a seller's market, it's closer to a balanced market than we've been in a very long time. Inventory is improving, and the number of homes for sale in April was up 30.6% compared to a year ago. Now, mind you, that's a big jump, but it still only took us from a super seller's market to the potential of a regular seller's market. And any seller's market is not great for buyers. So that's where we're sitting at 4 months supply. And I'm here talking to everybody, and I do get information from all over the country, from all the different homies. You can listen to them on the interviews I talked about at the beginning. But remember, all of this real estate data that comes out in the national news, it's national. And for you digesting your information, it's best to do it through a local and regional lens. I mean, what's true nationally or on average could be way off for where you want to buy. Here's some sample recent statistical updates in individual areas. On April 24th, Housing Wire reported that Florida home inventory for sale is up 10.8%. Now, the number of homes sold, that's down 1.3%, and the home prices are down 1.9%. So that's pretty incredible. That's for the single-family homes. Condos, inventory in Florida is up 5.8%, but the number of sales, that's down 9.8%, and prices are down 4.5%. Now, before you get too excited, again, real estate's all regional and local. I've talked to my unicorns as well as many homies in Florida, and the condos have a big problem. There are some serious issues that are going on in Florida. Insurance problems due to natural disasters, and that's caused a bunch of HOAs to actually have insurability issues. Like some of them can't even get insurance. That's been boiling over for a couple of years. Here's another example of some more local news. On April 29th, Housing Wire also reported that Wisconsin is reporting a 10.2% drop statewide in the number of homes sold. They've got their inventory at an even worse market for buyers. Sorry, I was trying to figure out how to say that. At a worse market for buyers, but a better seller's market. It's 3.2 months supply. That's not good if you're a buyer. And the deal is, even though the number of homes sold dropped because the supply was so low, prices rose 7.3% in the first quarter of 2025. That's awesome if you're a home owner. 7.3% in one quarter is sick appreciation. But if you're out there trying to figure out how to buy a home, knowing that and knowing what's going on in Wisconsin, this can be really helpful for you. And then I read this one on April 30th. Inman, a big real estate publication, they reported that this spring, East Coast real estate agents say that they're seeing signs of an emerging buyer's market. With a quote from Bright MLS chief economist Lisa Sturdivant, quote, "While it's not officially a buyer's market yet, the pendulum is clearly swinging away from the intensely competitive conditions of recent years. Buyers are seeing more options and facing fewer obstacles compared to this time last year," unquote. Now, here's the numbers. For the week ending April 27th, new listings were up 12.2% in a 6-state market compared to a year ago. And the number of active listings, that rose 31.8%. So the new ones coming in were at 12%, and the number of listings that are out there, they're sitting at 31.8%. And that's compared to last year. So this new level of inventory in New England, it's the highest level in more than 3 years. And within those same 6 states, 9% of the active listings, they actually had a price decrease. And that was up 1 percentage point from the year before. And all that comes to us from Bright MLS data. Now, nationwide, I'm also hearing the same thing, that reports are saying that sellers are getting a little bit more flexible. Nationwide right now, 18% of the listings had price cuts in April. And another report on April 29th said that the typical home seller nationwide wanted 9% more on their price than the typical buyer was willing to pay. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Stats, numbers, percentages, prices, month supply. What does this all mean for you? Home prices currently pretty high, and they're continuing to rise, but that's going slowly. So unfortunately, don't expect big bargains, and definitely don't expect a market crash to suddenly make homes cheaper. However, the fact that the prices aren't skyrocketing, that is a silver lining for you. You're not being outpriced as fast as you were a couple years ago. And if you work the Last Lease Ever program, that's episode 251, you can create your own personal rent replacement strategy to find a way to win when you are stuck in a renter's rut. Even though it feels like things are unaffordable, the good news is it's not running away from you. So with inventory still on the low side, be prepared to act quickly when you find a home that you love. Good homes still go fast. And budget, knowing that even though some sellers are slashing the prices, here's what happens. And I'm hearing this from everybody. Once that price gets to the correct pricing, I'm hearing from homies and unicorns that attractive price, well, Then suddenly it comes out with massive buyer competition and the bidding wars begin, and it typically goes over the list price. I'm hearing in some places as much as $25,000, $50,000, even $100,000 over list price. In fact, our team here in Southern California just had a home. Now, those of you not in Southern California, might as well just shut your ears right now because you're going to freak out. We had a 2-bedroom, 2-bath little condo, which actually was more like a single family home, 1,054 square feet, $750,000. That's what you get for 72 degrees all year long and no bugs. Okay, we put it up at $749,000 and it sold for $800,000. That's what happened. We had 4 or 5 offers in the first weekend. Now with us, we price it aggressively from the beginning, but when you find those 18% of people that come in and you see that they've lowered the price, the 18% of listings that are doing price reductions, don't think when you see a price reduction, you can come in and then suddenly offer even lower than that. Sometimes, again, checking with your local team to understand the true value of the home, you're going to see a price reduction and then it's going to be a bidding war and it might even get back up close to the price where it already was. So confusing, confounding, absolutely. But here's what the numbers mean. Stay patient. Be ready to move when the right home comes along. There are 4 P's for the 2025 first-time homebuyer market: patience, persistence, perseverance, and a positive attitude. Okay, so that's prices and inventory. Let's talk about the third final piece in the holy trinity of housing affordability: those damn mortgage interest rates. Now, if you haven't heard this stat yet, let me be the first to tell you, the average mortgage rate since 1970 is 7.7%. I know that a lot of you out there have only been thinking about buying a home for a few years. This is just the time of your life you started thinking about it. So maybe you didn't look all the way back like I did. Maybe you went a decade back in your research and you thought, okay, that's it. I can get an average from that. And you saw 5s and 6s, and then you saw 4s and 3s and 2% rates. And so you're like, okay, well, let's get it back down to 5 or 4. Well, what you actually saw with those rates was an artificial creation. It was a bailout economic policy created by the government. And unfortunately, you're probably not going to see them again. I wish you could. I wish rates were going to get down to 4 and 3 and 2%, but it doesn't look likely. It looks like we're going to stick with that 7.7 average since 1970. And hey, you can't be mad about it. You just got to figure out how to adjust and move on. I mean, I wish I could go back and buy Netflix stock back when they used to mail DVDs to my house and before they were a streaming service. And you can't buy Apple stock before they invented the iPhone. So let's work with what we got. When you're working out your rent replacement strategy, the best advice I can give you on interest rates is this: stop waiting and stop watching. Because here's what we know so far as we're in May of 2025. It looks like it's all going to stay the same for at least a few months, possibly into the end of the year, possibly longer. So you're not going to see any interest rates without a 6 or a 7 in front of it. I mean, look at it this way. In the past few months, we have witnessed insanely, ludicrously quick economic fluctuations. I mean, up and down, up and down, up and down at the drop of a hat. And you would think, oh gosh, well, the interest rates are going to go crazy. Nope. Interest rates stayed in about a 0.5 point range from 6.5% to 7%. So sure, if you want, I could bore you with all the data on the federal rate cut predictions as it pertains to the GDP and job growth and inflationary numbers. And then I could prattle on about the 10-year T-bond, which has a current 2.65% spread to mortgage interest rates. And then I could take another hour to go over the historical and traditional correlation of those factors with mortgage interest rates. But I'm not going to do that because you know what? I don't hate you. No, gang, actually, I really do empathize with you. And, well, I care for your mental health, and I don't want to put you through that. So here's all you need to know when you're doing your plan and trying to figure out, okay, how are interest rates going to affect my purchase? Well, if you're trying to figure out how to buy with a high interest rate, go back and listen to some of the episodes in the past, 256, 261, 280, 286, 326. You can learn all about buying with high rates and all the different ways that people have figured out how to buy a home, and looking at this being the new normal as part of their buying process. You'll also be able to find some of the ways that people have gotten lower rates, whether it's assumable loans or mortgage interest rate buy downs. And then after you've done all that research, settle in and just make your plan with a 7% mortgage interest rate. And you know what? If it does happen to get lower when you're ready to buy, great. That's just gravy. That's why in the last 2 episodes with Kelly, the Unicorn Lender, the best strategic advice that she gave on interest rates was not to get your pre-approval number with today's current interest rate. You can go in and do that, and that's what all the online lenders will do. But the better thing you can do is to get your plan with a lender advocate, someone who's going to get you your target numbers on your credit score, your debt, and your savings, and then building a strategy to find the right loan program with the best rate options available to you when you're ready to buy. That's it. That's all you need to know on interest rates. Do not let them be your deterrent. Do not let them be the thing that stops you from starting your plan. Just plan for 7%. Anything else is extra. Make your strategy. And then your trusted pro, they're probably going to find different options along the way as they work with you and through all your finances to get something lower than that. And they might have, who knows, a multitude of different scenarios and different loan options that could help you get a rate that works for you, your family, and your financial goals. Speaking of goals, the goal isn't to get you pre-approved when the perfect interest rate happens. So stop rate watching. Assume that this 6.5% to 7%, that's it for a while. And anything lower is just an extra blessing. So if you're letting these weird headlines stop you, remember, there's a whole bunch of other information out there, and you don't know what you don't know. And truly, the only one that's stopping you from moving forward in your plan, notice I didn't say buying a home. I said moving forward in your plan. The only one stopping you is you. I've got 90 more minutes of information on economic data that I researched for you, but they pretty much all had the same answer. 2025 so far has looked like this, and it's probably going to continue. Low inventory slowly rising, prices slowly going up as people get used to the new normal of a 6.9% interest rate, which all economic factors indicate that's probably where it's going to stay for a while. That's everything, gang. Period. The end. Curtain. So your best play is to make your plan, get a trusted team, and get in now while everyone else is freaking out every time they see one of these crazy headlines. Now, if you want more practical, usable information about the whole home buying process, well, don't look at the headlines, that's for sure. Instead, go through the library, the interviews to learn the insider tips and tricks from real people just like you who now are no longer paying rent. And if you've got a specific question, that's where you go to howtobuyahome.com and click the Ask David button. And the best guidance I can offer you is to ignore the minutia of today's numbers. Realize that your rent replacement strategy is the smartest thing you can do for you and your money, and know you've got someone else who has helped other people do this before and who believes in you. Because you know what? You can do this.
Looking for more DIY education or your own personal step-by-step guidance through the home buying journey? Since 2019, How to Buy a Home has been the #1 resource for first-time home buyers. So visit howtobuyahome.com to get started.